Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the mechanics section of the pasta developers for March of 2025. There's a bunch of different stuff that have been suggested, and I thought we'd cover them all because I think some of them has some pretty fun history. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe, and let's get started. The first suggestion is the increased diversity of medals and also their requirements. As we all know, medals exist in the game as a way to demonstrate the commitment of players to the tech tree they like to play. With the introduction of more nations as either independent vehicles or subtrees, the game can explore the opportunity to allow players to demonstrate their dedication to a certain tech tree by playing specific vehicles, and also to provide players who have grinded the entire tree some challenging tasks and explore rather unpopular vehicles. The concept of medals can also be expanded not only to represent the game's records of players, but their ability to play different vehicles in the game. Additionally, countries such as the USSR, as well as ex-Axis states, lack their modern medals. There are no medals and orders for the German Republic, East and West Germany, Republic of Italy, or the Russian Federation. In War Thunder, as of right now, there are very limited numbers of medals that represent Cold War or modern conflicts, outside of the US, the UK, China, and Israel, which furthermore saw relatively limited American and British medals as compared to the wartime awards. As an example, the Gulf Medal was created by Britain in order to reward the participants of the Gulf War, specifically Operation Granby, where the British forces liberated Kuwait. To earn this medal, the player has to achieve a number of kills or a number of wins with the vehicles that were involved in the Gulf War. Tornado F3, the Jaguars, the Buccaneer S2, Challenger Mark 2s and 3s, the Challenger DS, as well as the Warrior. There are no sources that seem to demonstrate the involvement of the Stormer HVM, but the Stormer with Shielder mine-laying system was also involved in the war. So perhaps set the requirement for around 400 kills, and since these are relatively popular vehicles, are 100 games, and therefore you could get access to that medal. Also, another example that could be worth discussing was the Medal of Self-Defense Warfare against Vietnam, which was known as the Third Indochina War globally. These were awarded to the participants of the conflicts who had fought in the engagements. In practice, Chinese vehicles that were involved in the conflict were limited to Type 59s and 62s and Type 63s. There are also a number of SP-MLRS that were involved, but obviously these aren't in War Thunder yet. In the game, these tanks are relatively unfavorable to play, with each of the tanks or their BRs having certain issues. Therefore, a medal that requires gameplay from specific vehicles should see China players trying out these vehicles, so therefore the requirement should be around 200. With more subtrees also being introduced to different nations, as well as a variety of nations who were represented by one or two vehicles, the game is obviously very diverse nowadays. The concept of nation-specific medals is not entirely easy to do nowadays compared to what it was before with all of these new nations. So instead of doing it nations, instead it might be worth attaching them to vehicles. Again, Britain would be used to discuss this idea of medals from other nations first, since it hosts a large variety of ex-Commonwealth nations. Modern-day South Africa features a variety of decorations for their military, such as the Ifrotia. The decoration for superior service represents in bronze, silver, and gold. These could represent players' commitment to South African vehicles by achieving 3 stages of kill counts or number of wins, where at least one South African vehicle was played. You could do the same thing with Finland and Hungary. You could do the same thing with Canada as well. There are many different things that you could do across the board with these different medals. So expanding them from how they are put in the game right now and instead expanding them to a larger feeling would be a great idea. The next suggestion is to basically track your nuclear strikes. This suggestion was added in 2024 in February, so obviously there's been some updates to the game since then, and you can show how many nuclear strikes that you have had. But one of the things that the person wants is actually adding them to the stat card, basically showing how many nuclear strikes you have in different vehicles. Therefore, if you have, let's say, played the VT-12 and you've got, let's say, 10 nuclear strikes in it, it would show it on the right-hand side of the service record, showing which vehicles you are most efficient in at which time. So there are two ways to be able to set this up. So you could develop a system where the tank that gains the highest spawn points during a battle receives a +1 increment in its statistics, including it was the vehicle used to deliver the nuclear payload. Alternatively, you could consider a mechanism where when a player ejects or their vehicle is destroyed to activate the nuclear strike, that tank would get the +1 on their stat card. Or you could do every vehicle that was used in that match would get +1 of a stat card too, basically showing which ones were involved in nuclear strikes. I kind of don't mind this idea. I think it's kind of nice. Obviously, we have better ways of showing it now, but no way of kind of showing which vehicles you are most prolific in. There's also a suggestion for the Kopp-Etchells Effect for helicopters. Basically, this effect happens mainly by rotary wing aircraft, or helicopters, when operated in desert or sand-rich environments. It's very simple. Rotor blades, especially their tips, are protected by an abrasive shield that is quite hard, but not as hard as sand. As the helicopters approach the ground, the downwash generated by the blades push the sand up and violently cause the abrasive shield to lose some fragments. Those fragments are rapidly oxidized and they ignite instantly, creating this effect, which is pretty cool. It's basically like when you grind metal, sparks come out of it. The Kopp-Etchells effect is basically the same thing. It actually looks really, really cool, and I hope we actually get it into the game, not just because of visibility stuff, but also it just looks really nice. We then have another simple suggestion, the Boolean operators for War Thunder Live Search. Currently, the War Thunder Live site considers all tags separately and doesn't allow you to exclude tags without blacklisting them. For example, let's say you're looking for a historical camouflage for the Leclerc. If you type #Leclerc, #historical in the search bar, the site will return all skins containing the Leclerc tag, those containing the historical tag, and those containing both. Another example, if I'm looking for a camouflage for the Leclerc, but don't want to see an anime camouflage, the only way to do it is to blacklist the anime tag and search for Leclerc. As you can see, this isn't practical. This is also why there is a lot of people who try and blacklist specific terms, and then when they try and search for other things, they still get stuff which is from those terms, because it's doing an AND function instead of an OR function, which is obviously different. You also have the negative operator and also parentheses, which could be used too. So the idea is just to make the search a little bit easier, and also so people can avoid things that they want to actually avoid. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.